Converse, manufacturers of America's #1 basketball shoe, the Converse All-Star, brings you the 33rd in a series of championship basketball films. You'll see the top games, the top stars, and as a special feature, valuable inside instructional pointers from All-Stars Dan Issel, Phil Ford, and Julius Erving. Let's go to the action of tournament highlights from around the country that made history in 1979. The NAIA Championship pits the Drury College Panthers against Henderson State. Drury College plays out of Springfield, Missouri. Henderson State comes from Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Drury in red has 5 starters back from last year's quarterfinalists. But Henderson State's John Avery, an all-tournament selection, opens the scoring. Drury's Jerry Alexander comes right back for the Panthers. The big man on this powerful Drury quintet is number 53, Mike Carter. The 6'8" high scorer is not only good, he's the winner of the tournament's Hustle Award. At the half, Carter and Drury lead by 4. In the second half, long-range bombing by Tony Avery keeps Henderson State close. But postseason experience and board control is more than enough to propel Drury College to the title. With 4 starters in double figures, Drury College beats Henderson State 60-54 in the NAIA championship game. In women's basketball, top-ranked Old Dominion University of Norfolk meets Louisiana Tech for the AIAW crown. Old Dominion is coached by Marianne Stanley, a former star with Immaculata. Stanley played under Kathy Rush, so she knows what it's like to play for a winner, and now she's coaching one. The Louisiana Tech team has speed to burn, but Old Dominion in white has All-American Nancy Lieberman, number 10, plus 6'5" Inga Nissen. Lieberman and Nissen rally Old Dominion from a 5-point halftime deficit. Angela Turner is on her way to an 18-point sharpshooting performance for Louisiana Tech. Full court pressure can't stop Nancy Lieberman, who teams with Nissen for 42 of Old Dominion's 75-point total. The Lady Monarchs are big and quick, too. There goes Nancy Lieberman for yet another driving 2-pointer. Old Dominion comes back strongly in the second half to overpower scrappy Louisiana Tech 75-65. The 1979 Women's Championship belongs to the Lady Monarchs of Old Dominion. At the Pontiac Silverdome in suburban Detroit, professional basketball's annual All-Star Game is a showcase of brilliance. This gala occasion attracts a record crowd of nearly 32,000, with Dr. J, Moses Malone, Walter Davis, Pete Maravich, Elvin Hayes, George Gervin, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and all of the NBA superstars on hand. The fans are in for a special treat. And how about this move by Denver's David Thompson for the West? The man who plays the game like he invented it, Julius Erving, switches from forward to guard and cashes in for the East. With Thompson and George McGinnis paving the way, the West is rolling. And now Laker great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hits his patented skyhook. That's unstoppable, and the West races to a commanding 80-58 halftime lead. Dr. J closes the gap for the East in the second half, but Thompson continues with the hot hand for the West. High-scoring honors go to Julius Erving as the 76ers star finishes with a total of 29 points. Dr. J's 18 in the second half makes the West nervous, but the big rally by the East runs out of steam. The West holds on to win the NBA All-Star Classic 134-129. It's an all-Indiana final as the Hoosiers from Bloomington battle the Purdue Boilermakers for the NIT title at Madison Square Garden. Purdue's big man, 7'1" Joe Barry Carroll, is the key to the Boilermaker chances. He's the Big Ten scoring leader and the dominant force at both ends of the court. Indiana and Purdue met twice before and split those two regular season conference games. Indiana's Butch Carter connects, but the Hoosiers trail Purdue by 4 points, 29-25 at halftime. The game seesaws back and forth during the second half with neither team able to break it open. Finally, with the score of 52-51 Purdue, Indiana coach Bobby Knight calls for a foul. Joe Barry Carroll goes to the line for a 1-and-1 with 21 seconds remaining. Carroll takes his time. It rolls off the rim. Indiana grabs the key rebound as number 45 in red, Ray Tolbert, makes the big play. Purdue's Arnett Hallman fouls Mike Woodson, and Indiana takes timeout with just 16 seconds left. In fact, Coach Bobby Knight calls 3 consecutive timeouts in order to plan his next move for the Hoosiers. Here's the play as discussed during that triple timeout. Indiana patiently looks for Mike Woodson inside. The ball goes into Woodson, but he's surrounded. Woodson alertly passes back out to Butch Carter. Carter spins. Now he shoots. Good! In ultra-dramatic fashion, Indiana captures the NIT with a breathtaking 53-52 win over arch-rival Purdue. Carter's clincher earns him a share of the MVP trophy with Ray Tolbert as the Hoosiers celebrate their thrilling NIT championship. Salt Lake City is the site for the NCAA championship between Michigan State and Indiana State. Both teams boast high-power offenses sparked by sensational individual performers. For Michigan State, it's Mr. Magic, Irvin Johnson. Indiana State features Larry Bird, the Paul Bunyan of basketball. But Michigan State's zone defense is putting extreme pressure on Larry Bird. The Sycamores' big man finds the early going difficult, while the Michigan State Spartans control the boards and the game, forcing Bird and company into poor percentage shooting. Irvin Johnson and teammate Greg Kelser are a potent 1-2 punch. Watch this Johnson or Kelser alley-oop as the Spartans forge an early lead. It looks like the same movie, but a new scene on this play as Magic Johnson goes all the way himself this time, and Michigan State bursts to a 9-point halftime advantage. Another story emerges during the second half as Michigan State's unsung junior guard Terry Donnelly wipes out an Indiana State surge with 4 long shots in a row. Michigan State stays in its 2-3 zone. Indiana State looks for its leader, Larry Bird, and there he is. The Sycamores cut it to the Spartan lead once more. Bird came into the finals as the nation's most publicized collegiate player, leading Indiana State to 33 straight wins. Now he scores again as the 34th straight would win the NCAA title. Undaunted by Indiana State's #1 ranking, the Spartans refuse to fold. Irvin Johnson makes it 55-46. Greg Kelser continues his dynamic performance, too. Kelser's dunk ends it with a flourish. It's a 75-64 victory for the champions from Michigan State, and a tough loss for runner-up Indiana State as their NCAA Cinderella story falls 1 game short. We proudly present the 48th annual Converse All-America basketball team. This 10-man squad represents an outstanding blend of all-around basketball talent from coast to coast. Proceeding in alphabetical order, we begin with Larry Bird of Indiana State. Voted Player of the Year, Bird can do it all. He beats you inside and outside as well. Bird ranks 6th on the list of all-time leading scorers and tops on our Converse All-America roster for 1979. Bill Cartwright of San Francisco University is the all-time West Coast Conference scoring king. Cartwright averaged 24 points a game and led the nation in rebounding. UCLA's David Greenwood and consistency go hand in hand. Starring for 4 years on the Bruins varsity, Greenwood registered double figures in 52 of his last 55 games. Darrell Griffith of Louisville is considered by many to be the most exciting college star in the nation. One of two juniors on our dream team, Griffith led the Cardinals at all offensive categories. Irvin Magic Johnson is 6'8" and 210 pounds, but the way he plays the game, it's doubtful there's anyone at any size with more ability and versatility than this sophomore sensation. Combining rebounds, assists, and scoring, Johnson is truly the complete basketball player. Greg Kelser is also from Michigan State and was most instrumental in the Spartans' 1979 success story. Known as Special K, Kelser scored 19 points in the championship game and was voted to the All-NCAA tournament team. Reggie King of Alabama was twice selected as Southeast Conference Player of the Year and is the top scorer in Alabama history. Sidney Moncrief of Arkansas is the top scorer and rebounder in Razorback history. The acrobatic Moncrief averaged over 22 points per game this season. Calvin Natt of Northeast Louisiana is a real smooth shooter who ranks number 10 on the all-time major scoring list. Mike O'Corin, still a junior at North Carolina, was the only player in the ACC to rank among the league leaders in 5 offensive categories. Las Vegas is the setting for most of the premier college stars to match their skills in the 8th annual Pizza Hut Classic. Larry Bird is the feature attraction, but you can bet that many Converse All-America stars will shine before this game is over. The game itself is a benefit for Easter Seals that attracts nationwide attention, as well as professional scouts and coaches window shopping for the future. A follow-up rebound by Notre Dame's Bruce Flowers gets the East off and winging. Flowers, a determined, scrappy player who captained Notre Dame in '79, scores again for the East Stars. Most of these All-Stars will go on to the pro ranks. A bright prospect from the University of Las Vegas, Nevada, Earl Evans, helps the West bounce back. The West keeps battling, and here's a bucket by Lawrence Butler of Idaho State. It looks like volleyball until Dudley Bradley of North Carolina breaks out of the pack to score as the East stretches its lead to a commanding 17 points at halftime. In the second half, Larry Bird and Earl Evans go head-to-head. Evans becomes the game's high scorer with 21 points, leading a Western surge. The East goes back to its ace, Larry Bird. Bird scores in the clutch and sews up the game MVP honors. Detroit's Terry Durod caps off a colorful and exciting contest as the East outlasts the West 107-92.
You've just seen the best young talent in the country illustrate how to win at the game of basketball. To be a winner takes years of practice learning the fundamentals of the game. Fundamentals can be broken down into 3 basic areas: rebounding, ball handling, and shooting. You've got to score to win, but you can't score without the ball. That's where rebounding comes in. Offensive and defensive rebounding is an art, and one of the best rebounders is Dan Issel.
Thank you, Doc. Rebounding is one of the more physical aspects of the game. Often you'll hear a coach say, we have to control the boards to stay in the game. There's not much you can do in the game of basketball without the ball. And the best way and the quickest way and the easiest way to get the ball is to get it off the glass. It helps to be a great jumper, and you'll see some great leapers that are awful good rebounders, but you'll see other good rebounders, Wes Unseld, for instance, who can't jump very well at all, but he uses great position to get between his man and the ball. And if you do this well, you can even let the ball come off the backboard and hit the floor and pick it up for a rebound. So I would say positioning is the most important technique in rebounding. 3 points in positioning that you should all remember. Number 1 is don't get too far underneath the basket. Make your contact and block your man out as far out on the floor as you can so that you have room for the ball to take sometimes a longer bounce and still get the rebound. Number 2 is the 3 spots on the floor that should be covered in blocking out, in positioning. Of course, on either side of the basket and right in front. And the third point is make sure that the ball has been shot. Don't turn and try to block your man out before the ball is released, because then they might pass it to your man and you'd be playing defense with your back to him. So make sure that the ball is on the way to the basket before you stop playing defense and start getting into your rebounding position. The first thing you do is you turn your back and get your feet spread wide apart so that you're not easily pushed off balance. Get your feet spread, get down and spread your arms. Try to make your body as big as you can and make it more difficult for the man to get around you. Once you're in that position with your knees bent and your arms out, you keep contact with the man, looking to the basket for the ball. Once you've gotten the ball off the board, the next thing you have to be concerned with is the outlet pass. Now, the first point is never bring the ball down here where you're playing with the little fellas. People can run around and knock it out of your hands. When you take the ball off the board and turn for your outlet pass, keep the ball up over your head. Now, the most important pass on the fast break is the first one, the outlet pass from the man out to the guard. The guard should be stationed free throw line extended. This is predetermined by the coaching staff. And when you get the ball off the board, you turn and you know where he is. Never bring the ball down. Turn and give it a good flick pass out to the guard, and that's the first pass to the fast break. As far as defensive rebounding is concerned, Wes Unseld of the Washington Bullets probably blocks out better than any man in the league. Again, he has to, because he is restricted in his size and his jumping ability, but he more than makes up for it because he blocks his man out well, gets good position, and keeps him away from the backboard. A couple of practice techniques that you can use to improve your rebounding. Number one, defensively, turn and get your good position with your legs spread again, your knees bent. Throw the ball up on the glass and go up and get it strong with 2 hands. Don't try to be fancy and grab it with one. Go up and get it strong with 2 hands. Practice your pivot, your turn for the outlet pass. On the other end of the court, on the offensive end, what you try to do is stay away from the contact. Don't let the defensive man get his body on you so he knows where you are. Most of the time, he'll be turning, looking for the ball, and give him a fake. Start one way, try to get him to move over in front of you and go around the other way. The key to offensive rebounding is, number one, stay away from the contact. Don't let the man block you out. And number two, you have to keep moving, keep going for the basketball. Once you stop, it makes the defensive man's job much easier to block you out. The best offensive rebounder in the NBA is Moses Malone of the Houston Rockets. And the reason that Moses is such an outstanding offensive rebounder is, number one, he has great quickness. It's difficult for big men to get their body on him. And number two is he's always moving. He's always on the move. He never stops. He's always going to the basket, trying to get the tip in or get the offensive rebound. On the offensive end, a good drill is to tap the ball on the board 3 or 4 times and then try to tap it in the goal. This improves your jumping and your ball control on the tap.
Just as Dan Issel has excelled in the art of rebounding for so many years, a brand new NBA star has emerged in the backcourt. Phil Ford is the NBA Rookie of the Year, and we're sure you'll enjoy his instructional tips on ball handling.
Ball handling consists of passing the basketball, dribbling the basketball, and taking care of the basketball. When you're playing basketball, you can actually cut out the palm of your hand because you never use it. You never use it when you're passing, you never use it when you're shooting, and you never use it when you're dribbling. Especially when you're dribbling, you always dribble with your fingertips because it gives you better control of the basketball. And it's like this. All right? To become a better dribbler and a better ball handler, you've got to be accustomed to dribbling with both hands. Because when you're going to your right, you should always dribble with your right hand. When you're going to your left, you should dribble with your left hand. Always use your fingertips. When I'm dribbling, I protect the ball by keeping my body between the defensive man and the ball. I always try to keep something so the defensive man doesn't have a straight shot at the basketball. If I'm dribbling with my right hand, the ball is always back behind my body, so the defensive man just can't make a clean steal of it. And my head is always up so I can see the entire court. A lot of younger kids sometimes tend to keep their head down when they're dribbling a basketball like this, which is wrong. When you're dribbling a basketball, you should always keep your head up, always looking ahead so you can see what your offensive men are doing and you can see your defensive men. Passing is very important to ball handling because I don't care how good a player may be, he or she can't play the game by themselves. And there's going to come a time when they are going to have to pass the ball to someone else. There are a lot of passes behind the back, between the legs, over and around the head, but you really don't need those passes if you know how to overhead pass, a chest pass, and a bounce pass. First one I talk about is the over-the-head pass. Most times when I'm starting the offense, the ball is over my head like this because I can see my offensive players better and I can see my defensive player better. And when you pass the ball, you're passing with your wrist, and as I said before, with your fingers, as. And passes should always be crisp. The next thing is a chest pass. And when you're using a chest pass, as I said before, it should be crisp. You use your fingertips and you step. And the third pass, which is a bounce pass or a feeding pass, is probably the most important pass in basketball because that's when you're getting the ball inside to a person to score. And the way that should be done is you step and use your fingertips as. When you receive the basketball, you should meet the pass instead of waiting on the pass, as. Because if you wait on the pass, it can easily be stolen. And also, when you're receiving a pass, make sure that you follow the ball all the way into your hands, because if you don't, a lot of times you'll miss the ball. When I was a kid, I really liked Charlie Scott a lot because growing up in North Carolina, he played for North Carolina. And I really liked the way that he handled the ball, the way that he could penetrate and hit the open man and score himself. Also, I really like Walter Davis a lot because both of these guys I'm talking about are 6'6", and I'm only 6'2", and they can handle the basketball as well as I can, or maybe even a little better. Now you know how to dribble the basketball, how to receive the basketball, how to pass the basketball, and how to get a rebound. Now, let's learn how to shoot the basketball from the amazing Dr. J.
My fundamental technique for shooting involves having my hand spread almost as wide as I possibly can spread it. This way I can cover as much of the ball as possible, and I feel as though I have total control over the ball when it leaves my hand. I know sometimes if my shooting is off, I'll look at my hand before shooting the ball or while I'm practicing, and if my pinky has moved in towards my ring finger or my thumb has moved in towards my index finger, then you'll find the ball going off to the left or to the right. So having your hand spread is going to give you total control over the ball once it leaves your hand. And once it leaves your hand, you should be sure to follow through on your shot and let it roll off of your fingertips. When developing your shot and trying to become fundamentally sound, I think you should start with short range, rather than going out and starting from 20 feet away from the basket. Maybe start from 5 or 6 feet away from the basket and then get some of the mechanics of shooting down pat first. I think firstly, other than having your hand spread, you should think of bringing your elbow into more of a tuck position so that your arm and your forearm is directly on line with the basket. This will avoid you shooting curveballs or bricks, as we call them in professional sports, at the basket. Most good shooters, when they come out and practice shooting, they usually end up having a favorite spot on the court. My favorite spot happens to be on the left side of the court using like a 12 to 15 foot bank shot. So my favorite spot is a certain spot up on the backboard, and I go out before a game and I usually find that spot and drill a couple from there, and that's where I would prefer to shoot from during the game. But to become a fundamentally sound shooter, I think you have to learn to shoot without using the glass, and most of the shots in your middle of the court will come without using the glass. So what you want to do is just try and get the ball right over the front of the rim with a proper arc on it, and it should be a most effective shot for you. You find that players who practice shooting with a fluid motion and just getting their shots right over the front of the rim, the ball usually goes through and hits, the top of the ball hits the back bottom part of the rim. You know, you should have your body in what I call a flexed position. Like, there are a lot of people who have fast shots and a lot of people who have slow shots. A guy who has a slow shot is one who catches the ball, goes down, and then raises up. A guy who usually shoots the ball quickly catches it in a flexed position, so all he has to do is go up and go in one motion. And all you have to do is follow your shot with an upward motion. And the difference between that and catching the ball and going down and then coming up for your shot is a matter of a split second, but it could be the difference between getting your shot blocked or getting it off rapidly. When you're practicing shooting your jump shot, the first thing that I suggest that you think of is to find out what your range is going to be, you know, where you're most effective. When you're in close to the basket, where most of the big guys and the 7-footers hang out, it seems as though you might have to jump a little higher than you would have to if you're 10 or 15 feet away from the basket. But, you know, when I'm shooting my jump shot, I'll basically try to jump almost the same height each and every time, but if there's no defender on me, I'm not going to jump as high as if there is a defender on me. And the most important ingredient is to try and stay on balance. If you find that you have to fall back or you have to lunge forward when you're shooting a jump shot, then you're not shooting within your range and you're not shooting within the context of your game. When you're going up in the air, sight your target and you know, keep your eye on it. You have to have that type of concentration in order to make shot after shot. This is the 1970s going into the 1980s, and of course it's the age of the jump shot. But many people see the slam dunk as the game's most crowd-pleasing shot. For me, and the way it's always been for me ever since I was able to first dunk the ball, it was almost a necessity to dunk the ball when you got close to the basket, because in this day and age, you know, I think we have the greatest shot blockers in the existence of the game playing on all levels. And guys go and try to block your shot each and every time you go to the hoop. But if you go to the hoop something like this, they tend to move out of the way.